Hello, my friend. This time, our story is about Leonardo da Vinci, an artist, inventor, and thinker who saw the world in a very special way. As you listen, I invite you to relax and imagine each part of his life. This story is told in simple English, made for learners like you who love great stories. Let's begin the journey of Leonardo da Vinci. Chapter 1. A Curious Boy in Vinci. Leonardo was born in the year 1452 in a small town called Vinci. It was in the countryside of Italy. His full name was Leonardo di Ser Piero da Vinci. His father was a notary, a man who worked with legal papers. His mother was a peasant woman. Leonardo was born out of marriage, so he lived with his father's family. From a young age, Leonardo loved nature. He watched the birds, trees, and water. He asked many questions. He wanted to know how everything worked. People around him saw that he was very curious. He did not go to a regular school, but he learned to read, write, and do simple math. Leonardo liked to draw. He drew animals, people, and the hills around Vinci. He used pencil, charcoal, and ink. His drawings were full of life. His family saw his talent. They knew he needed to learn from someone great. They decided to send him to Florence. Florence was a big city. It was full of artists and thinkers. Many people there were building, painting, and creating new things. This city would become the place where Leonardo's journey truly began. He was still a teenager, but his dreams were already big. He wanted to understand the world. He wanted to create things no one had seen before. This was only the beginning of his life journey. Chapter 2. Learning from a Master. When Leonardo arrived in Florence, he was about 14 years old. His father helped him become an apprentice in a famous workshop. The master of the workshop was Andrea del Verrocchio. Verrocchio was one of the best artists in the city. He worked with painting, sculpture, and metal. In the workshop, Leonardo learned many skills. He learned how to mix paint and prepare surfaces. He also learned how to make brushes and use tools. Every day, he watched the older artists. Then he tried the same work with his own hands. He listened, practiced, and improved. Leonardo was not just a painter. He helped with statues, decorations, and small machines. He also studied how the human body moved. He watched people walk, talk, and sit. He looked at the shapes of arms, legs, and faces. He wanted to draw the human body in a true way. One day, Verrocchio asked Leonardo to help with a painting. It was a picture of Jesus being baptized. Leonardo painted one of the angels. When Verrocchio saw it, he was amazed. The angel was soft and full of light. It looked more real than anything in the painting. People say that after seeing Leonardo's angel, Verrocchio never painted again. This moment showed that Leonardo was ready. He was not only a student now, he was becoming a master in his own way. Still, he stayed in the workshop for a few more years. He wanted to keep learning and trying new things. During this time, Leonardo also wrote in small notebooks. He drew pictures and wrote notes in mirror writing. He used his left hand and wrote from right to left. Many people did not understand his notes, but they were full of ideas, dreams, and plans. By the time he was 20 years old, Leonardo was already known in Florence. People called him talented and different. They said his work had soul, but he wanted more. He wanted to explore art, science, and nature together. His life journey was just beginning to open new doors. Chapter 3. Painting Dreams. After his years in Verrocchio's workshop, Leonardo started working on his own. He opened a small studio in Florence. People came to him with requests. They wanted him to paint portraits and religious scenes. His style was soft, detailed, and full of feeling. He painted with care, and with love. One of his early works was The Annunciation. In this painting, the angel Gabriel comes to Mary to tell her she will have a child. Leonardo painted the angel's wings like a bird's wings. He made them look real, like they could fly. The background had flowers, trees, and hills. Everything was calm and peaceful. Leonardo's portraits were also special. He did not just paint faces. He painted the feeling in a person's eyes. He watched how people smiled and moved. Then he captured that in his work. One of his famous early portraits was Ginevra de' Benci, a young woman from Florence. Her face is simple, but her eyes are full of life. During this time, he also worked on a large painting called The Adoration of the Magi. It showed the baby Jesus with many people around him. The work had many faces and complex movement. But Leonardo did not finish this painting. He left Florence before it was done. Still, people loved the drawing and design. It showed his big ideas. Leonardo was not just an artist. He was also thinking about flying, movement, and machines. He studied birds in the sky. He drew machines with wings. He called them flying machines. These drawings were far ahead of their time. Leonardo began to feel that Florence was too small for his dreams. He wanted to do more than paint. He wanted to work with engineers, architects, and scientists. So he packed his tools and notebooks and moved to a new city, Milan. There, new challenges were waiting for him. Chapter 4: The Last Supper and Other Wonders. When Leonardo arrived in Milan, he was around 30 years old. The city was ruled by a powerful man named Ludovico Sforza. Leonardo wrote him a letter. In the letter, he did not speak about painting. Instead, he offered his skills in building bridges, war machines, and water systems. At the end, he added that he could also paint. Ludovico accepted him. He gave Leonardo many projects. Some were for war. Some were for buildings. Some were for art. Leonardo stayed in Milan for almost 20 years. This time was full of growth, ideas, and beautiful work. The most famous painting from this time is The Last Supper. It shows the moment when Jesus tells his disciples that one of them will betray him. Leonardo painted their faces with strong emotion. Some men looked shocked. Others looked sad or angry. Each one had a different reaction. Leonardo painted this scene on a wall in a monastery. But he used a special method. He did not use normal fresco paint. Instead, he tried a new way so he could take more time. Sadly, this new method did not last well. The paint started to fade after a few years. Still, the painting became one of the most famous in the world. While working in Milan, Leonardo also made many plans for buildings and machines. He drew detailed maps. He designed machines that could lift heavy stones. He even drew plans for an early type of car. Most of these ideas were never built, but they showed how his mind worked. He also created many drawings of people, animals, and plants. He wanted to understand how life worked. His drawings were clean, simple, and full of care. They helped others learn about the world, too. Leonardo also worked on a large statue of a horse. It was made to honor Ludovico's father. Leonardo spent years designing it. He studied real horses and made small models, but the statue was never finished. War came to Milan, and the metal meant for the statue was used for weapons. Still, Leonardo kept working and dreaming. His time in Milan was one of the richest parts of his life journey. It was a time of both great success and deep learning. Chapter 5: Machines of the Mind. Leonardo da Vinci was not only a painter and sculptor, he was also a designer of machines. During his life in Milan, he filled many pages with drawings of inventions. These drawings showed how deeply he thought about the world around him. They were part of his real story and life journey. He studied gears, wheels, levers, and pulleys. He drew machines that could lift water, crush metal, or help people build tall buildings. He designed war machines like cannons and armored vehicles. He also designed peaceful machines like water pumps and spinning tools. One of his most famous designs was the aerial screw. It looked like a modern helicopter. He believed that if it turned fast enough, it could lift into the air. He never built it, but the idea was clear. He wanted to help humans fly like birds. Leonardo also drew a machine with wings. He watched birds closely and studied how they flew. Then he made drawings of a man with wings strapped to his arms. These drawings were part of his dream to fly. Today, we call them flying machines. Another idea was the robot knight. This machine could sit, wave its arms, and move its head. He built it using pulleys and weights. It was not just a dream. It was real. He showed it at parties in Milan. People were amazed. Leonardo's notebooks were full of these ideas. He did not always build the machines. Many were never made. But the ideas were new, bold, and full of wonder. He used clear lines and short notes to explain how things worked. Even today, engineers look at his sketches. His way of thinking still inspires inventors. He saw problems in the world and tried to solve them with his own hands and mind. These machines showed how Leonardo da Vinci's imagination had no limits. His love for science and design was growing. He wanted to learn more about how things moved and how the body worked. This next step in his life journey would take him into the study of nature and human life. Chapter 6. Studying Nature and the Human Body. As Leonardo grew older, his curiosity grew stronger. He wanted to understand how the world worked, not just through art, but through science. His life journey now turned toward nature, plants, animals, and the human body. These became his new teachers. He spent many quiet hours in fields and forests. He watched how water moved in rivers and how plants opened to the sun. He drew the shapes of leaves, the lines of tree branches, and the way shadows fell on the ground. His drawings were clear and full of small details. They looked more like science pictures than art. Leonardo also studied the human body. He wanted to understand muscles, bones, and the heart. In secret, he worked in hospitals at night. There, he carefully opened bodies of people who had died. He drew what he saw. He labeled every bone, muscle, and organ with great care. One drawing showed the human heart with 4 chambers. Another showed a baby inside its mother before birth. He also made drawings of arms, hands, and feet. He showed how the body moved and how each part was connected. These were not just pictures. They were lessons in life. At that time, many people did not understand the body. Some thought it was wrong to open it and study it. But Leonardo believed that knowledge was important. He wrote, "The painter who knows anatomy will paint better." For him, art and science were always together. He also studied animals. He drew horses, dogs, and birds. He looked at their muscles, eyes, and wings. He compared them to humans. He asked simple questions. How do birds fly? How do fish move in water? How does a leg hold up the body? Leonardo's notebooks became full of these studies. His pages had sketches, short notes, and small experiments. He often wrote in mirror writing from right to left. This made his notes hard to read. Some say he did this to keep his ideas private. All of these drawings were part of his deep love for truth. He wanted to know what was real, not from books, but from his own eyes and hands. This part of Leonardo's life showed how he never stopped learning. He was not just an artist. He was a student of life itself. Chapter 7. A Life Between Cities. After many years in Milan, Leonardo's life changed again. In 1499, the French army came to the city. Ludovico Sforza, Leonardo's patron, lost power. The city was no longer safe. So Leonardo packed his things and left. He took his notebooks, drawings, and tools. Once again, his journey continued. He went to Venice, then to other parts of northern Italy. People still knew his name. He worked for a few short jobs. He drew plans for bridges and buildings. He also helped design defense systems for cities. But he did not stay long in one place. He was always moving, always searching for new ideas. Around 1503, Leonardo returned to Florence. It had been many years since he left. The city had changed, and so had Leonardo. He was now known as a great thinker and artist. In Florence, he began one of his most famous works, a portrait of a woman. This painting was called La Gioconda, but today we know it as the Mona Lisa. The woman in the picture has a quiet smile. Her eyes seem to follow you. The background is soft and dreamy. Leonardo worked on this painting for years. He carried it with him from city to city. He never gave it to the person who ordered it. During this time, Leonardo also worked on large drawings of battles. One was called the Battle of Anghiari. It showed men and horses in action. Muscles, faces, and movement all came alive on the wall. But like many of his projects, he did not finish it. The wall had problems, and the painting faded. He also worked as an engineer for the army. He planned rivers, canals, and buildings. He continued his studies of anatomy, flight, and nature. But some people in Florence did not understand his way of working. He started many things, but finished few. Still, his ideas were always deep and full of wonder. Leonardo moved again, this time to Rome. There, other artists like Michelangelo and Raphael were working. They were younger and had strong support. Leonardo felt left out. He had ideas, but fewer people wanted his work. Still, he stayed busy. He studied light, water, and the movement of the moon. His journey between cities showed something important. Leonardo was not chasing fame or money. He was chasing knowledge. He moved from place to place, always carrying his notebooks. Each new city brought new questions, and he never stopped asking. Chapter 8. Secrets in his notebooks. Leonardo da Vinci did not just live through action. He lived through his thoughts, written in hundreds of pages. These pages, full of drawings and short notes, became his most personal and lasting work. His notebooks were like secret windows into his mind. He carried small notebooks wherever he went. He wrote about things he saw in nature, people he met, and ideas he had. Each page was filled with sketches, birds flying, rivers moving, muscles stretching, and machines turning. His lines were clear and careful. Every stroke had meaning. Most of his writing was done in mirror style. This means he wrote from right to left, using his left hand. It was not just for privacy. It was how his hand moved naturally. At the time, few people could read his notes. Today, people still study them to understand how he thought. One group of notes was called the Codex Atlanticus. It included designs for flying machines, bridges, and war tools. Another group, the Codex Leicester, focused on water, light, and the moon. In one page, he wrote about how water flows in rivers. On another, he studied how the moon shines with the sun's light. He also wrote lists. Some pages had simple tasks like draw Milan's church, buy paper, or study the woodpecker's tongue. These notes showed how curious he was about both small and big things. Leonardo did not plan to publish these notebooks. They were for himself. But inside them were many discoveries, ideas about the earth, the body, and the sky. He made notes on fossils, storms, and stars. He tried to understand how the world was made. Today, these notebooks are kept in libraries and museums. They are some of the most valuable documents in the world, not just for what they say, but for how they were written. They show a man who never stopped learning, a man who asked simple questions and searched for deep answers. Leonardo's notebooks were not perfect books. Many were unfinished. Some pages were lost. But together, they are a real story of one mind, full of dreams, questions, and love for life. These secret pages made Leonardo's journey more complete than any painting or statue. Chapter 9. His final years in France. In 1516, Leonardo da Vinci was over 60 years old. His hands were slower, and he painted less. But his mind was still full of ideas. That year, King Francis III of France invited him to live in his country. The king admired Leonardo. He wanted the great master close to him. Leonardo accepted. He crossed the mountains and traveled to France. There, the king gave him a large house called Clos Lucé. It was near the royal palace in Amboise. The house had beautiful gardens, quiet rooms, and space for his books, tools, and notebooks. In France, Leonardo was treated with respect. He was called the king's painter, engineer, and architect. He did not paint much anymore, but he shared his thoughts. He showed the king his old drawings. He talked about machines, cities, and the human body. The king listened with joy. He brought some of his most famous paintings with him, including the Mona Lisa. He kept it in his room and often showed it to guests. He also brought many pages of his notebooks. In those final years, he organized some of his drawings and wrote more ideas. Even as his body grew weak, his spirit stayed strong. He worked slowly, but he still worked every day. He taught young artists and engineers. He spoke of nature, light, and balance. He believed that all things were connected. Leonardo also spent time walking in the gardens. He looked at the birds, the sky, and the water. He still asked questions. He still wondered how things moved, how they lived, and how they died. His love for the world never left him. On May 2, 1519, Leonardo da Vinci died at the age of 67. He passed away in his bed at Clos Lucé. It is said that King Francis I held his hand as he died. The king later said, "No man was born who knew as much as Leonardo." Leonardo was buried near the chapel of Saint-Hubert, close to the palace. Today, people visit that place to honor him. In his final years, he lived with peace and honor. He was not only a painter or inventor, he was a man who saw beauty in all things. Chapter 10. The Legacy of Leonardo. Leonardo da Vinci died more than 500 years ago, but his name still lives on. His life journey, full of art, ideas, and wonder, continues to inspire people around the world. His story is a real story of a man who used his eyes, hands, and mind to explore everything around him. Today, the Mona Lisa hangs in the Louvre Museum in Paris. People from every country visit it each year. They look at her smile and try to understand her mystery. It is one of the most famous paintings in the world, and it was created by a man who never stopped learning. His other great painting, The Last Supper, is still on the wall in Milan. It is fragile, but it still shows the moment, the feeling, the life. People stand quietly in front of it. They imagine the hands and thoughts of Leonardo as he painted it. But Leonardo's art is only one part of his gift. His notebooks are another. They are now in museums and libraries. They show flying machines, bridges, and water studies. They show a human heart and a growing baby. They show dreams that did not come true but still changed the world. Scientists, artists, and engineers study his work. They learn how he saw the world, piece by piece, part by part, always asking why and how. He was one of the first people to mix science and art. He said that art without science is nothing, and science without art is blind. There are statues of Leonardo in many cities. Streets, schools, and airports carry his name. Books and films tell his story. His notebooks have been studied for hundreds of years. Some ideas inside them still feel modern. That is the power of true genius. Leonardo da Vinci did not see himself as great. He often felt he had not done enough, but the world remembers him as one of the greatest minds in history. He was a painter, a scientist, an inventor, and a thinker. He loved beauty, truth, and knowledge. This was the life journey of Leonardo da Vinci, a real story of a curious boy who grew into a man of light. His questions are still with us, and his work continues to help people learn English through story, think deeply, and dream wide. Thank you for joining this life journey through the real story of Leonardo da Vinci. His art, his mind, and his questions have helped people for hundreds of years. And now, through this English listening practice, his legacy can help you too. Take care, my friend, and may every new story bring you joy and wonder.